morning, good afternoon, good evening to some of you. Welcome to the last little segment of our incredible party. I was jamming till late last night, and I'm up early this morning, so I'm super stoked to have on a last couple people. We do have Ricky here with RMT Books. Ricky, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing today?
Oh man, it's the day after slash of still the 24-hour party. So I'm hanging in there, but man, I'm pretty vibey, man. The music's been bomb. I've been jamming to it almost all night. So I'm just excited to talk to you, man. I see you already
Yeah, bro.
you already got one of the AMAs up, you crazy guy, you.
Nah, man. That's all how we do it at RMT Books. In fact, Jimbo, while we just starting off, let's go ahead and shoot for the plug right away. I'm just gonna ask you, Jimbo, you've been working with RMT Books for the last couple days, weeks here. How would you rate your experience or how would you describe your experience with RMT Books?
Yeah, man. No, super rat. I mean, it takes a whole like segment of my kind of like my list of duties. It takes a whole like chunk of it away from me having to worry about it. And it's been so simple. Uploaded it and the descriptions and all that stuff all done. So I mean, I've been blown away by it, to be honest with you. And yeah, man, I'm super stoked to kind of dive into like the what, why, where, who, how, all that good stuff. Yeah, so right off rip, obviously, a lot of people recognize you from the Goobers area working with Eric. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, kind of what got you started into Web3 and flow blockchain, and then we'll dive even deeper into RMT.
Hey, man, it's all good. So we live in it, right? I mean, started off, I used to live in a houseboat. So after I dropped out of college, the third time I moved back to the Central Valley of California, popped up in a houseboat. And I remember I had this bedroom, man, and my mom and her husband, they gave me an air mattress. And I had to crawl into the bottom of the boat. And I had about a ceiling like 2 feet above my head. So I would just lay there at night, be rocked to sleep by the river delta, listen to some John Mayer. And what I would do during the daytime, instead of going to work, I would just go to the library. So I'd be up in there popping out books, reading them, and I came across this one book, man. It was called The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. And you get into that book and you start reading about this character, Edmond Dantes. And that's really where the entire RMT books kind of started off with that. Because this character, Edmond Dantes, he goes through inexplicable things, he goes through horrible things, and he gets out on the other side and he finds a treasure. And he uses that treasure to create different personas among the Mediterranean Sea area. And he uses all those personas to extract revenge. Unfortunately, that's how it ends up, but on the people who put him in prison in the beginning. So I read his story and I really just have been trying, that's about 14 years ago, just been trying to exemplify the characteristics of Edmond Dantes. He's trapped in a dungeon for 20 years, no light. He has one guy, Ab, teaching him different languages and stuff like that. And really to say, if I was ever to describe myself, that would be the best description. Yeah. So without going into too much detail, but thank you so much for that question.
Yeah, totally, man. I think it's it's an interesting thing, life, right? Like it's not cyclical, it's straightforward, and as we keep going, it's like a new beginning every day. And I think that that's a beautiful sentiment to realize that no matter what yesterday brought you, today has a whole new opportunity. And I think like in society, we kind of get I wouldn't say necessarily brainwashed, but kind of caught up in the idea that our past defines us or has any impact truly on what we do today. So props to you, man. That's a really, really cool little story. How did you get involved with Goobers and crazy man Eric?
Crazy man, Eric. So Eric is one of the most amazing people I've ever met in the entire universe. And it turned out that his daughter and my daughter go to the same school. So one day just parked and I heard this dude speaking English. We're in Germany, so it's kind of rare. And he had a nice Louisiana accent to him. And I was like, okay, I know this dude know English. So I walked over to him and we just started chopping it up, seeing what's going on. And he was then telling me about his time in crypto trading. So we used to be trading ADA and all that stuff way back when. And then, after a while, like 6, 8 months later, he comes, he's like, yeah, so I started drawing these dogs. I'm going to make this NFT and drop it. And ever kind of since then, he and I we just go back and forth on it. Like we used to go play golf and just kind of chit chat, shoot the breeze about, left, right, center, what's going on. And lately it's been that Eric is trying to focus more on his artwork, trying to get back into the zone where he can only have to focus on the artwork. And so what I'm doing there is just kind of going and doing any kind of text that he might need, or if he needs to post something, then I go ahead and just knock that out for him real quick. That way the dude has just, his back free and he can do what he needs to do, because trust me, that guy's got a lot on his plate.
Yeah, it's funny because ever since I've known him, I've been screaming that at him too of just not just Eric, but any artist, right? It's a good example of an industry where focusing on your specialty or focusing on what needs to get done for keep the main thing the main thing. It's difficult for artists when they have to worry about marketing, when they have to worry about presentation, when they have to worry about all that kind of stuff, retention, UX, UI. It takes from that art. And so there was I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but the strength finder concept, there's that book that kind of like they did like an IQ test, but instead of IQ, it was like it defined your strengths. And it's a really, really cool concept about how if everyone just focused on what they were good at and what they liked, then we would all even out. Like there would be people that do the garbage because there are people that love garbage and are obsessed with
Hmm.
the concept. And so I think it's really, interesting to think that the artists in Web3 need that extra help, man. So that's really, really cool. So is that kind of like what inspired you to kind of start offering this service?
Yeah, I mean, I just saw like the need, because if you think about it, like writing copyright text or description text, that can get to be a tedious process, especially you always have to focus on the grammar. Uh, yeah, so there's a lot of detail that goes into every step of, posting, or if you're making copy, or if you're making a graphic, or if you're making a video, or even if you're looking at a WAV file. So like all the raw data you're collecting as a business that you want to post as content, there's a lot of detail that needs to go into those pieces before they can be posted, because again, as a project, you want to have professional quality stuff being put out at all the time. Now sure, I trust 100%, 3,000 million% that these project founders, they're people, they're fully capable of doing this. But at some point it's like, these guys are UI or UX experts, and they don't really need to be spending their time writing copy or making graphics. I mean, their time is so much more valuable when they're typing code, or when they're doing something on the blockchain, whatever kind of task that they're specializing in. It's it's almost incomprehensible to think that they would have to, go over and then say, I got to write this copy, or I have to make 4 graphics, or I have to look at this WAV file. That's not really something they should be focusing on or need to be focusing on. And that's kind of
Right.
just where I step in and just fill the gap. And then that way their time is more efficient, and their time is becomes more valuable immediately, because they're talking to me for 5 minutes and they're doing a month's worth of work, and it's just boom, boom, done.
Yeah, that's rad, man. And like you said, efficiency is the word, right? And it's like this, especially with this space moving so fast all the time. I think that efficiency is like needed for projects. So I've noticed obviously a huge weight be lifted off of Eric's shoulders. It's obvious like the content's great, and like you said, I think it's important what you said. It was like it's not that they can't do it. It's not, no one's saying you can't do it. It's that again, the specialty and I'll give you like an example for me is like the Discord stuff. I love doing this Discord stuff. It's more efficient if I can just control it and do it myself. And then that, Hussein and Zaya allowed me to get moderator privileges so I can just go ahead and do everything, where instead of trying to explain to them what I wanted or how to do it, I just went in and did it. So I think, it's a very valuable thing that you're offering. So can you talk just a little bit about, obviously, like, you have some experience in that editing and stuff like that. Where does your real life experience come with that kind of stuff?
Oh, brother. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Did
which
I
is,
open Pandora's box?
I'm just trying to take it back, and then I got to land the plane, So I'm going to take you back. I started out mechanic in the Army. What was that, 2010? And then as I was a mechanic, I was like, what's really going on inside these machines? And I would ask my supervisors, be like, hey man, what's going on inside these machines? And the answers they was giving me, they didn't know either what was going inside the machine. So I said, you know what? Scratch this. I'm gonna get out the army. I'm gonna go to this engineering school. And it was actually, I lived in Germany, so there was this engineering school in my town. It was like 5 kilometers away. So I was like, all right, scratch this. I'm gonna get out the army. I'm gonna learn German. I'm gonna go to this engineering school, and see what we're gonna see what happens. So yeah, I got out the army without a guarantee that I was gonna get into school, but I just believed. I was like, okay, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And then hopped in there, studied mathematics. So basically, applied mathematics, calculus, blah 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 blah. Um, all up there from the German teachers, which is a little bit different style, but we won't get into that. And then after a year, moved back to California with I had 2 kids at the time and my wife. And then I studied the next 3 years applied mathematics engineering over in California. Right. So that's all to say the background in editing WAV files, for example, or editing audio, it comes from that 5 years that I spent studying mathematics. And I can look at 3-dimensional data or 2-dimensional data and comprehend it like within seconds or so. Like, I mean, I don't want to brag, but that's just how it is. And so I can see an audio file and I can take out what I need to take out and put in what I need to put in and move what I got to move and shift. And it's just kind of all a natural process based off how the waveform should be shaped,
Yeah,
for sure.
and you're allowed to brag. I'm I'm here for it, Ricky. He said, I don't wanna brag, but that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is." No, man, that's super cool, and it's amazing that you're able to pick up those kinda skills, along your journey, because it sounds like, obviously you've done a lot, seen a lot. I'm living in Germany has gotta be kind of a trip, yeah?
Yeah, definitely, man. It's
And
we grew up on the California coast or in the California Valley, so it's a big difference in Germany.
and how long have you been out there?
This is coming up to be year 7, man. So
Wow,
3 years
that
at the
that
jump,
that is
4 years in
what's
Cali, and then here's another 4 years right now.
The Germany tour. That's super rad, man. So, a couple things I want to ask you too is just like, obviously, offering this service, it's not like sold on just the flow blockchain, but obviously you're invested in the flow blockchain of just like, emotionally and being a part of these communities and stuff. What have you kind of seen, that's made you, you know, not positive, but hopeful or bullish on kind of the flow blockchain, and why do you continue to obviously help out goobers and have that faith that that flows where it's at?
I mean, I think it's could be boiled down to 2 words: Jimbo and Eric. They're both these guys are the heart and soul of something so much greater than what the flow blockchain represents from a ones and zeros standpoint. And when you look at the community and when you look at the concrete foundation that these communities are built on in the flow ecosystem, then it's like 200% obvious that it's going to go somewhere. It's not a question of if, it's just a matter of when. You hear some of these people talk on your YouTube channel, Jimbo, on your AMA channel. Some of these people talk, and they are the most brilliant people I've ever heard speak in my life. And it
Yeah.
astonishes me every time I sit down and listen to these folks, and you can't help but not doubt the future of the flow blockchain.
Yeah, no, seriously, I'm obviously very biased because 'cause they're my AMAs, but I sit here in awe sometimes, and I'm just like, "Wow, this is," Now, I've chatted with some really, really intelligent people in my life, and these AMAs have been incredible, and not, not just this party, but the last few parties, just nonchalant conversations on Twitter have been insane. So I want to kind of dive in, obviously, just switch it up a little bit. I got your rate sheet here and kind of like talk about this a little bit of, it's very affordable, man. You do audio production, audio and video production, graphic design, text copyright, and posting. So can we talk like real life examples, right? So you're an average Joe, you have either a project, or you're trying to build a brand or something like that. Tell us why it makes sense to hire you to do this stuff, and what all
Well,
your scope is.
I I was sitting down with a best-selling author in France, and we were having a steak dinner. Now, this is true story. This is true story. We're having a steak dinner, and it was at the beginning of RMT Books, and I showed him my website, and I was like, "Hey, check this out." So within 5 seconds, he says, "Your grammar's off, right?" And then I was like, "Man, but that's a lot of text. What am I supposed to do?" He's like, "Hire somebody that writes it for you." And then I was like, "But that costs like 250 euros, and that's 250 euros for just a simple marketing text, whatever." I told him that, and he tells me, the best-selling author, he says, "Don't sweat the peanuts." That's all he told me. And when we're thinking in the sense of affordability, what you're doing for a return on investment in this sense is you compare how valuable your time is to the cost of those products, right? So if it's going to take you as the founder to do audio editing, it's going to take you 2 hours. Let's say I value your time there at about 300 euros per hour. Then those 2 hours of audio editing would have just costed 20, 40, 60, 80 by RMT Books. And then, we have the 2 hours from him at 200 an hour. That's 400. So 400 minus 80, 320. Like basically he's just coming out with 320 because he used his time for something that's more efficient. And just put those 80 euros or $80 to the audio editing, which is basically just a driver or a leverage to get that moving and get it done. Right. So that's kind of how you look at it as a form of immediate return on investment.
Yeah, I resonate with this fully because I'm like the most fringe kind of tech guy where like I get it and I'm decent at it, but it always takes me a long time. So again, back to the shill of just what I've dealt with you, man. You've saved me an immense amount of time. And not only just the time, but the quality, right? So like there's two factors in that. The time that's going to take you if you're not an expert at it versus the quality, right? So you get both of those by coming through you.
100%, man. Of course.
So I do wanna talk a little bit. Obviously, obviously, doing my audio, you already know that I like to get a little philosophical, a little off the project scope. So
Philosophical. Yeah.
philosophical. I'm curious,
Philosophize.
and
There we
by
go.
the way, everybody, Ricky actually keeps track of all my ums, and every one I have to do 5 push-ups, so I'm gonna be ripped by the end of this party. So I wanted to talk just about, Web3 and NFTs. I wanted to kinda listen to your, mindset on it, and what got you into them, and why you think they're special aside from just, like, the community and the people, like, when it comes to the technology and stuff like that, I'm just curious, like, kinda like your thoughts on it.
Oh, Jimbo, Jimbo. So, as as a person who specializes in social media platforms and the integration between them and different things of that nature, I don't ever delve in that deep into the blockchain and the blockchain utility and things of that nature. So I just have to be like really honest there that I'm not waking up and reading articles about blockchain and things like that. So I wouldn't say that any opinion I have on the blockchain is as much value as some of the people who've come on before you, and definitely, you know, the stuff they say is mind blowing to me. I mean, it's really incredible to listen to it without having that much of a background because you're just making a giant leap in knowledge. So, yeah. So sorry that I can't answer that 100% there.
Don't you
As
say the S word, we know these rules. No, I think that's a very valid response, to be honest. I mean, I'm still learning every day, like we all are, and I think that, that's kinda I mean, even just saying that it's for the community is logical, right? Like, I
Mhm.
do see, that was why I was in the card community, right? I was in the physical card community because the community was super rad, and you know, all these communities, like, when you have these, like, kinda niche, interests, right? And you have, like, a niche
Yeah.
interest, you develop this sense of community with others who are like-minded, and I think that that's what this is doing, is it's bringing so many people together who aren't necessarily like-minded in specific ways, but, like, generally, I feel like. And I feel like that's how we're all I mean, we wouldn't have come into contact with each other without it, and I feel like, again, we touch base, or we kinda have we our streams cross a little bit with our interests and our, philosophy and stuff like that, and but again, like you said, not super into the blockchain, like, not you're not delving into it crazy, but we're still here,
And
right, together, and
yeah,
that and
yeah,
that's a wild kinda a thing there.
yeah, and definitely. I mean, and I feel confident in the people that do work and analyze the blockchain and do the things that they do over there. I feel very confident in their abilities, and from there, I don't worry about it so much, or don't think about it so much. I just think, you know what, these guys, they're proficient, extremely proficient. They're going to handle it, and I'm just going to stay in my lane and kind of focus on what I need to focus on. You know,
Or shall we say just go with the flow?
just go with the flow every day,
So
bro.
so did Eric drag you into Goobers? Or are you a part of any other do you own any other NFTs?
Well, I did some work for him last year and was compensated with 9 goobers. And
Woo!
yeah, yeah, incredible, right? No, I'm dead serious. Incredible, absolutely. So thankful for it because I gave 2 away as a giveaway back in the summer or something like that, and now I have 7. And what I'm doing with those 7 goobs is I'm just saving them, and they're going to be the college fund for my kids to go to Harvard.
That's what's up, man. Look, I love the Goobers art. Obviously, I was one of the first Goobers whales, man, and it was all about his vibe. And I tweeted that last night. I said, "Your vibe attracts your tribe," and I genuinely
Hmm.
believe that. And that Goobs community is super rad. Just like the crypto pharaohs community has that same kind of like that just that playful vibe, man, where everyone just wants to have a good time, have fun. And again, I keep going back to it, but it's just so funny that you came around as I was just absolutely yelling at Eric, like, "Look, stop trying to do it all." I'm just screaming at him. I'm like, "Dude," and he can totally back me up on this. We had so many conversations where I was like, "Dude, you" I was like, "What do you love to do?" He's like, "I love to draw and drink." And I said, "Well, just focus on drawing and drinking then. Why are you trying to run the Discord? Why are you trying to run the Twitter and all that stuff?" So it's wild that you kind of came on to that scene right at that time where I was just harassing him, telling him, "Stop, stop." And then he's like, "Well, can you help me?" I'm like, "No, but." I was like, I'm
Uh,
more of a problem pointer outer than I am a problem solver like most people.
oh
So
man, it's all good. What's going
So you talked a little bit, and again, this is getting a little personal too. But you talked a little bit. You just mentioned like oh, the Goober's going to be your kid's Harvard fund, and I love that first and foremost. Secondly, because if that's true, then fuck, I'm going to Harvard too. Shit, to get my master's then. But
Up on it, bro. Yeah.
uh, I wanted to talk a little bit as someone that has children, right? That
Yeah.
are do you think about introducing the children to a blockchain or like there's those projects like Zeeds and Zigazoo and stuff like that where there's very kid friendly kind of blockchain concepts and we from Zeeds we heard like obviously children love the artwork and they're having fun. But they made a
Mhm.
really good quote yesterday that was, what why do kids have to have toys, right? Why is that like the common thing? And it made me think like people with children these days, you get an opportunity to kind of make that decision to say, oh, well, interesting. Maybe I could, start seeing if they're interested in this kind of stuff. Is that something you thought about or anything like that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, I mean, just a direct example is this game Fortnite. My son is like he's one of those 10-year-old kids that'll just whoop you up, like like you think you're good as a
He's one of those
35
kids
year
that
old.
made me retire, huh?
Yeah. Like he's switching weapons during a kill and stuff like that and jumping around and building. I mean, it's incredible to watch him play. And I was thinking, man, because I got him this battle pass, but only because he reached level hundo. And I got it for him, and then he got all these skins and stuff. And I'm just thinking, like, man, if these skins were, somehow weaved into a blockchain, then they could become tradable assets for him. And then
Right,
maybe, over the PS4, he could just swap out with his friends, and that could all be, maintained over the blockchain. So I'm just kind of waiting for, maybe Fortnite to hop on that blockchain
right,
wagon and
right.
kind of integrate that into their gameplay so that my son can have assets that follow him through time and basically don't lose their value once Fortnite goes offline or something like that.
It's funny you say that because another example was the published NFT yesterday was talking about ebooks and how when you buy an ebook, you buy it, right? But you don't own it.
Hmm.
And I think that's such a common example that I haven't really put a lot of thought into of why don't you own it? Like what are the reasons you don't own it? And it's because you can't give it away. You can't
Hmm.
trade you can't give it to a friend. And that's the same thing what you're saying with those, like, Fortnite skins and stuff, is that's another real world example of why we need true ownership. It's like fake ownership to say, "Oh, I bought all these skins." Well, if you bought the skins, why can't I send them to my friends? And that's
Yeah,
like it's a greedy kind of profit centric, concept to say, well, you bought it, so it has to be yours for well, there's not one thing in life that I can think of that you're like, when you buy it, you can't give it away, except for like dentures, maybe. But
dentures or your retainer.
yeah, yeah, you gotta retain the retain. But no, in all seriousness, I think I'm glad you brought that up because that's such a good example of like children that will buy them things digitally and they don't stick with them.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
So it'd be nice if the kid was able to, kind of already grow up in the, kind of with that blockchain as a backbone of his digital assets. Uh, so that, I mean, he's already getting familiar with the processes and all that good stuff, but it doesn't exist fully yet. And just back to this tradable assets idea. I mean, think if you buy an actual book, you could say you own it because the book is in your home, and then your neighbor comes over and you can lend it to him, for example, like physically lend him the book. Now, if I have a digital asset that I can trade, on a blockchain or just trade in general, then I can lend out something that I own being a digital file, whether it's a picture or a goob or whatever, and I just trade it out and just bring it back home whenever they're done with it. It's basically the real world equivalent of just borrowing and lending, or giving your buddy something and he brings it back to you in like 5 years, something like that.
yeah, and again, like you said, that's kind of why I brought the kids, right? Is because ideally our kids are always are going to be around longer than us.
Ideally, yes,
Ideally, they're
very
gonna
much
be
so.
around longer than us, but I'm just we gotta plan for stuff like that in the future, and I think that that's what the blockchain brings is that ownership, so it's really interesting. So, I also wanted to touch base with you on obviously, we talked to published NFT. I really do
Yeah.
think there's an opportunity there for you, as a partnership because, obviously, if we're publishing books on the blockchain and stuff like that, there I think that there's plenty opportunity for you to kinda get into that scene of just editing, grammar, promotion that goes with the book. And that was the first thing I thought when we were interviewing. I'm like, wow, wait, Ricky's this is kind of right up your alley. Did you get a chance to listen to the Publish NFT one yet?
I did not get to. I will get to it here soon, but
It
I would
was a
just want
late
to.
night for you.
Oh man, I was out at midnight. I was just like, I can't do it no more. Got to wake up at 6 and get at it.
Yeah, there's definitely some opportunity for you there. All I could think about was
Right.
that
So
that there's
I'll just
so
be real
much
quick on
opportunity
you,
there.
Jimbo. Real quick on you. So instead of thinking about it as like me doing editing audio or making the graphics and all this stuff, what I would do as things start to expand is I just implement systems that have processes in them. So basically, it's like a function. I start out with raw data that somebody sends me, and then there's this system of steps, processes that the raw data goes through to get to its final product. So I would build those systems out of different, what do you say this, different employees. I know that sounds rough, but it's like I have different employees that will be specialize in a certain area or aspect. So one person will be super good at graphic design, so now I'm getting like 10 orders of graphic designs coming in, and then I would put those raw data into the system, have a graphic designer look at it, they check it, they give it to the next person who finishes the whole process off. And that's kind of the direction, or the things that I would be doing as the owner of RMT Books. And that's how we can efficiently manage multiple projects at one time. But also, there's going to be that special care taken to, what's each project's personality, and what do they want to portray, what's their message, what's their vision, what's their goals. That's always taken into account in the beginning before any kind of data starts being processed, and especially before any kind of copyright is being written.
And to be honest with you, that's very obvious with the work you've done for me. I mean, looking at the YouTube and the description and the pictures, and it just it is my vibe. I mean, it feels like I did it. We have a good question from Jan, which is, what tools do you use to create your promos?
My promos. Oh, I just said it's gonna be killer. All right, so for audio editing, I use Adobe Audition. And then for creating the actual podcast, I use Premiere Pro. So basically, I make a JPEG from, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it, Canva. There we go. Make a JPEG from Canva that's already in those YouTube settings. And I download that, bring it over to the Google Drive, bring that over to the local directory where I'm making my movie, and I throw that in Premiere Pro and then get that done. So we got Audition, we got Premiere Pro, we got Canva, and for the writing, I definitely use Grammarly. So bad grammar is a no-go. I told you all that story about sitting down with that best-selling author. So I'm always in Grammarly, and I usually don't push anything out. Well, I never push anything out without running through Grammarly once. If you guys see like passive voice or different kind of detailed grammar mistakes, then that's for the most part me leaving in those mistakes on purpose. But I love to hear your criticism on the writing in Twitter posts and all that stuff. We had a correction about 3 days ago, and I was really happy to see that. So definitely, those are the four tools I use, and that's that's all I have to say to that.
And that's all I gotta say about that. Yeah, and if you got TJ actually brought up a good point. He said if you want a game for your kid that you can own the character, DMX is a great way to look at how it can be done. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. DMX is a great opportunity for although I will say about DMX is when I talked to the founder, we were talking about, and I said, "Is this kind of made for kids?" He goes, "Absolutely not." And he shot me
Oh.
down so fast, and he's like, this is not for kids. And I was like, oh, that was a bad question. So it's funny that TJ brought that up. Yeah, man. I mean, obviously, like I said, I don't. There's no one else on the blockchain on Flow right now that's doing what you're doing. So I think it's super rad and unique. And again, I think it's a service that people need when they don't even think they need it. I mean, do you come across that too? I mean, I know I don't know how long you've been doing, obviously, professionally, but do you see that that's probably something you come across a lot is people like Eric who are hard-headed and be like, "I can do it all. I don't need you." And then as soon as they, you know, pony up and put the money up for it, they're like, "Wow, that was worth every penny." Is that something you kind of see?
Uh, I saw it mostly in my 3 years as a salesman out here in Germany. Basically, I would go from farmer to farmer, and we would discuss what they need to do, like pesticides and herbicides, all that stuff. And there was always those farmers who were resistant, like, "Hey, man, I don't need your help. I don't need your ideas, blah blah blah." But those farmers who would just listen to the advice that I would give them and write down, I call them recipes for their fields. Their fields were clean. It was super easy, and you could just see that these guys were always happy that I came by and just told them exactly what they needed to do, and it worked every time. And it just freed up their time, and it freed up their stress levels of thinking, oh, I have to come up with this mix for my fields, stuff like that. So basically, again, alleviating work by leaving that specific niche to a professional is it's a very good path to follow.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, quality is so important. I think when you rush it or try to make it fit, it's obvious and doesn't translate well.
Mhm.
So, kind of a futuristic question for you, like where obviously like things move so fast in this space, and you already got a few clients on board right now. Where do you see RMT Books going in the next 6 months to a year?
To the moon. I mean,
To
uh,
the moon.
to the moon, bro. That's my expectation is always exponential growth. I mean, I just can't be any more upfront than that. And if I look at the development over the last, bro, I've been working at this for 3 years, 3 long years I've been working at this, bro. But if I look at the development over time, I can start to see that exponential curve taking off and heading in a more favorable direction or having a better slope. So I think 6 months to a year, the number one goal is to get a yacht. So I'm not talking a big yacht. I'm talking like a 10,000 euro yacht. And that's kind of my goal for the next 6 months to a year. And I'm going to take that down the Main River, take it over to the Rhine River. And then from the Rhine, I'm going to go down to the Mediterranean Sea. I'm going to try to get that voyage accomplished. So that's the goals for
Hell yeah.
the next year. Yeah.
Just you got to invite me since Roham never invites me on his yacht.
uh, I'm getting the I'm getting the Craigslist yacht, bro. So
uh, so just a quick, I was wondering, have you thought about it all? Like, obviously, like you provide this service, and if I'm being like the true flow slash blockchain technology maxi that I am, I'm wondering if there's a way for you to sell an NFT that provides your service, right? Like a token or something like that. Is that ever have you ever thought about that?
I've thought about it, but again, it's way over my head. So if there's some expert out there that knows what he's doing in that sense, and if the conditions were right, that's definitely something I would do.
Super rad. I love that. Well, yeah, man. I linked your Twitter and the rates and stuff like that. Do you have a website or anything? Are you working on a website?
Oh, for sure. So the website right now is rmtbooks.com, and it's basically a landing page and an about page because the best way to manage things at the moment with RMT Books is to just go ahead and write me on Discord, and we sit there 30 minutes to an hour. We just kind of discuss where you're at right now and where you want to head towards, what your goals are. We just kind of work that out, and then we can just see on Discord how we work together. And as that recommendation system starts to grow, then I'll go ahead and start looking more into the website. Because again, another thing is my specialty is not in website design. My mom actually goes through and helps me out there. So thanks to mom. And her time, I don't even want to get into how valuable that is. So whatever she can provide, whatever she can do, I just tell her, okay, it's good to go. So that's as far as we are with the website right now.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I just linked it so everybody can see it in chat room and sponsor info. So last couple questions, obviously, before I get you to do your like last call for action. But the last question I have for you is like, uh, you know, who who's the ideal kind of person? Are you looking obviously like with these bigger projects and stuff? I feel like they have like the team and stuff. Are you targeting then just like that average Joe who just wants to start a project or wants to have some type of brand? Like, who's your ideal client?
The ideal client or the person that would most benefit from the service is the person who knows they have to do social media posts but never looks forward to it. And they feel like it's taking a lot of their time. They feel like writing copy 250 words is overwhelming. If if those kind of feelings are running through you, then RMT Books is definitely the place you want to go and just have that discussion like, hey, this is overwhelming, or hey, I'm not sure what to do here, I'm not sure what to do there. And then we can start to de escalate the situation and see how we can free up your time or just lower your stress levels so that you don't have to worry about all that social media stuff if it's not really your thing. So, if it's a big company, if it's one person, if it's just the person who's frustrated with that task, just reach out to me. We could work it out. It's no big deal.
Awesome, man. Well, I want to give you the last couple of minutes to kind of do, a call to action of how people can support you, all that kind of stuff. So just take a few moments to let everybody know how they can support you and your idea.
Right. So, like I said earlier, just go ahead and write me on Discord. If you want to talk about posting social media and developing a plan for that, that's the best way to reach me. We're called RMT Books. I think we went over in great detail all the stuff that we do over there. And Jimbo, if I have 2 seconds, I have to ask you a question. Do you
Oh
have time for
boy.
one question, man?
I have
It's a real
time
simple
for you,
question.
man.
So I know you're a basketball coach, bro. I know you're a basketball coach. How do you play the pick and roll? Do you go over the screen? Do you go under the screen? Or do you switch?
So good question. Yeah, so the pick and roll. So it depends on the ball handler. Well, it depends on the person picking too. So it's a couple factors. So if the person setting the screen, if they're a big man and they're not a shooter, you're assuming they're gonna
Mhm.
roll to the hole, right? So
Okay.
you're gonna go over the screen. So if you're guarding the person with the ball and the person setting the screen is a big man, the person guarding the person over the ball is going to go over the screen with a hedge
Okay.
from the big man defender. So a hedge just kind of stopping that, like, since you're going over the screen, right? You're kind of
Yeah.
trailing that person. So the person that's playing defense kind of has to like bump them, like hedge them, and then hurry back, assuming that that person's gonna roll. If the person screening is a shooter, then you want to go under it and assume kind of they're both trying to shoot the ball.
Okay.
If that helps. The pick and roll, there's
Wow.
a reason, Ricky. There's a reason that everyone uses it, and it's like the number one easiest go-to play. It's a really hard thing to defend if you do it right.
That was just a master class on in 2 seconds on the pick and roll. That's awesome. I
It's
got
one of
one
my
more
it's my
question.
favorite thing. Yeah, go ahead.
One more question for you. Scariest scenario that has ever happened to you on the sea, on the Pacific Ocean, when you're in a boat in 2 minutes.
Mm.
What you got?
Yeah, the first time I was on a monohull instead of a catamaran, it was the backside of Lanai. There's a buoy called Buoy CC, and it's the real ocean. And I'd never been on the real ocean before. We call what's out here the Lake Maui because it's so flat and it's actually all these islands used to be one island out here
Mhm.
in Maui County, and so then like it's only like 300 feet in the channel there. So when you go on the backside of Lanai, though, it's like 8,000 feet. And so that was
Whoa.
really scary for me to actually be in the real ocean. And there was like a 6 to 8 foot like swell happening. So the waves were like crashing over the boat. Now, originally I was like, wow, this is so cool. And I'm like looking at my phone, like doing video. And then I got my first case of seasickness. So it was
Ooh.
fear mixed with just awfulness. But it's just, yeah, the ocean's no joke, man. And when those waves hit, that post he just made right there, I mean, it was decently similar to that. I'm not gonna lie. It was the waves were crashing over the boat, and like the guys I was with were really calm, but I was like shitting my pants. It was definitely scary.
Oh my God, bro.
So,
That's some scary stuff right
TJ had
there.
a question for you. Actually, TJ said, "Do you do this for small businesses?" He said, because he TJ runs that bakery with his family, and he said he might need
Oh, for
to
sure,
hire you for.
100%, bro. Yeah, just get at me on the Discord DM and we could talk about that. So, I talked about the system earlier. Now we're not starting with the NFT project. The input's going to be a bakery. There's going to be a different set of parameters that we have to look at, and we could definitely work with that. I mean, it's no problem at all, man. Just gotta hit me up.
Rad. Well, I appreciate you, Ricky. Honestly, man, I appreciate everything you're doing for me, the AMAs, having that YouTube channel is so rad. It helps keep myself and other projects accountable. When I look back and I listen to AMAs from, a month ago or whatever, I'm curious to see, if people are doing what they say they're doing. So I think that keeping along that consistency of the blockchain and how, accountability is there. I think that having these AMAs somewhere for people to listen to also is very important. And I genuinely appreciate you doing that. And I'm super excited to see kind of what the future has in store for you and what projects you're going to be working with and all that good stuff. And obviously, I'm very excited for the future of Goobs and your effect on that. So I appreciate you coming on, man. And like I said, I really look forward to the near future of RMT Books.
100%. So let's give out that flyer, that float.
Woo, you got to
The
float for people. Let me link
Yeah,
it. You can give out the password. Let me link it.
and if you guys have been following the groups lately, we've been doing some password games. So we got one right here, and I'm not going to tell you any other hint other than that it's all lowercase. All right, we good to go, Jimbo? You got the link out there?
Yeah, links out there.
All right, Romeo, Mike, Tango, Bravo, Oscar, Kilo, Sierra. That's your password, lowercase your hint. Jimbo, thank you so much for the time. I greatly appreciate it. I'm overjoyed that I had the opportunity to talk with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hey, keep practicing your basketball moves, man. We'll be hooping soon in person for sure. Shout out RMT Books and Ricky, man. Great job. Appreciate you. For everyone who's still here, we're gonna do just like a couple minute break, and then I'm gonna bring on Hussein for our closing statements. It'll be short, sweet, to the point. We're just kind of talk about the event, our thoughts, and the near future of Crypto Pharaohs, and obviously we'll set a date for the 2nd-year anniversary. So stay tuned, enjoy the music for about 10 minutes or so, and we're gonna bring Hussein on up, who has been on his GIF game this morning. Let me tell you.